Imagine a weapon so fierce that it transforms the battlefield into a blazing inferno. Flamethrowers, an invention dating back to the ancient Byzantines with their Greek fire, have evolved from medieval siege warfare to modern battle tactics. Today, we dive into the fiery history of flamethrowers, from their early forms ejecting flames in naval battles to the advanced, terrifying devices used in world wars. Witness the transformation of these incendiary tools from a psychological weapon that could demoralize entire troops to sophisticated machinery that changed warfare forever. Join us as we explore the scorching story of flamethrowers in combat. The prototype of the flamethrower can be considered to be Greek fire, which first appeared in 190 BC. Greek fire was a combustible mixture used for military purposes during the Middle Ages, first employed by the Byzantines in naval battles and during the siege of fortresses. For launching at ships, copper tubes and handheld siphons, also called flame horns, were used. During sieges, it was placed in barrels or clay vessels, after which it was hurled at enemies. Modern-type flamethrowers appeared at the beginning of the 20th century. The first backpack flamethrower was created by the German scientist Richard Fiedler in 1901, and 7 years later, he submitted a proposal to the military ministry for the consideration of his invention. The inventor suggested purchasing his devices for conducting fortress warfare, and also proposed a method of ignition on water as a means to counterattacks on ports and fortresses by an enemy fleet. His proposal interested the ministry, and on March 14, 1909, trials were held in a military camp demonstrating three types of devices. 1. A small one in the form of a backpack weighing about 30 kilograms or about 70 pounds. 2. A large one for use by 4 people in the form of a tank with flammable liquid weighing about 200 kilograms or around 420 pounds. And 3. A towed version which could be attached to various equipment weighing more than 1 ton, which is over 2,000 pounds. Despite generally successful trials, the Commission deemed all 3 devices unsuitable and rejected the inventor's proposal. However, he did not give up and a year later repeated his proposal, noting that all devices had been significantly improved, range tripled, and less smoke produced during burning. Thus, in July 1910, new trials took place in Berlin, attended by a Russian military engineer and a German agent, where Fiedler demonstrated his 3 devices. The backpack device, with a total weight of 30 kilograms or roughly 70 pounds, a liquid capacity of 17 liters, a range of 15 to 20 meters or up to 60 feet, and a burn duration of about 50 seconds, did not look much different from its predecessor. Additionally, it came with a mica mask to avoid unnecessary risks. The other 2 devices underwent significant changes, but the Commission deemed them useless, unlike the first. Thus, it was decided to acquire the backpack device, even despite its limited range, for further testing and improvements. Up until the beginning of World War I, the Russian military lost interest in incendiary weapons. This was not the case with the Germans, who by the start of World War I had already created flamethrowers of 2 types: backpack, used in offensive actions, and heavy, used in defense. Thus, on July 30, 1915, the English and French troops were attacked with this new weapon. The Germans, having breached the trenches of the enemies, began to literally douse them with flames, forcing them to abandon their positions. Subsequently, flamethrowers had a significant psychological effect, and many soldiers, upon seeing them, could even flee the battlefield. After World War I, realizing this, country leaders began to actively arm themselves and improve these weapons. As I mentioned, during World War I, 2 types of flamethrowers were used: backpack for offensive actions and heavy for defense. But between the world wars, a 3rd type of flamethrower emerged: the explosive flamethrower. We have told you about the backpack type, let's discuss the others. The heavy flamethrower could be installed in trenches, on tanks and other equipment. The range of the flame jet is 40 to 60 meters or around 200 feet, with a sector of impact of 130 to 180 degrees. A single shot can cover an area of 300 to 500 square meters or up to 1,600 square feet, potentially disabling up to a platoon of infantry. The explosive flamethrower differs in design and operation from the backpack types, but it too was mounted on tanks and could also be fired from something akin to rocket launchers. Its operating principle is simple. The incendiary mixture was placed in a capsule which was fired by the vehicle or a rocket-propelled grenade launcher (RPG), and it burst over the enemy, affecting a vast area. Now, let's talk directly about the principle of operation of a flamethrower. The principle is the same for both backpack and heavy types. Flamethrowers are devices that eject streams of easily flammable liquid with a thickening agent over distances ranging from 30 to 150 meters. Simply put, a flamethrower is like a hose with water. The task is to pour as much fire mixture into the target as possible so that it burns for a long time. The fire mixture varies between countries, but typically consists of 50% oil, 25% kerosene, and 25% gasoline, along with thickeners and other substances. It is expelled from a tank through a special nozzle by the force of compressed air, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, hydrogen, or gunpowder gases, and is ignited upon exiting the nozzle by a special igniter. I've already discussed the explosive type earlier. By the way, some flamethrowers now use napalm, and you can find more information about it in the video at the top right. From this, we see that the pros of the flamethrower include its huge psychological impact, large radius of effect, and the ability to use smoke and high temperature to flush the enemy out of buildings, trenches, etc. However, it also has several cons, such as its low range compared to firearms, making it possible for the user to be shot from a distance, as well as the inability to reload and use it in open combat. Therefore, nowadays, they are often used in the rear for burning crops, villages, or for flushing out insurgents. Still, at this point in time, most world armies rarely use them simply because such combat tactics are moving away from stationary positions. That is, if in the Middle Ages and World War I everyone dug into towers and pillboxes, and in World War II it was 50-50, today no one sits in heavily armored pillboxes since they can easily be destroyed by aviation. Roughly speaking, instead of smoking out, different guided munitions from aviation and artillery are used now, which has eliminated stationary battles completely, hence the reduced need for flamethrowers. And if it's just necessary to occasionally smoke the enemy out of a building, this segment is covered by explosive rocket-propelled flamethrowers like Russian Shmel. But in China, there are still issues with terrorists in mountainous areas. Therefore, using flamethrowers to flush them out of caves from a safe distance is still convenient. And finally, let's compare flamethrowers in movies and real life. In films, for safety and spectacle, flamethrowers either use gas or fire mixers that, unlike combat ones, do not have a thickener. This gives a wide spray that beautifully burns almost entirely in the air before reaching the target and has a range of about 4 meters or around 12 feet. But in reality, the range of a flamethrower can reach up to 50 meters, which is more than 150 feet, and the mixture will continue burning for about a minute. Also, unlike in movies where flamethrowers burn everything in sight, in real life, shooting directly at people is almost unheard of, more akin to hitting someone with a grenade launcher, a rare exception. The main use is the destruction of fortified positions. For example, a flamethrower might fill a pillbox or other enclosed space, and the fire would consume all the oxygen, causing all soldiers to die or evacuate due to smoke and carbon monoxide. Also, many of you have seen in movies and games how shooting a red canister causes it to explode dramatically. But this scene is far from reality, as flamethrowers always used thick mixtures like kerosene plus fuel oil, which are much harder to ignite than gasoline. Hence, piercing the tank would simply result in a powerful jet of fire mix, and the weapon would have to be discarded in battle. The only real danger might be hitting a small canister of compressed air, but that's like shooting a CO2 fire extinguisher. A much greater danger to the operator arises from accidental splashes during careless handling or if the flamethrower explodes.